Welcome in, Tiger fans, to another episode of Bayou Bengal Bites, where we recap all of the LSU baseball sports from the previous week. Tigers took the week 3-1 with a lone loss today against Xavier. One-run game, close game, 2-1. Had a chance there in the ninth, but couldn't get a run across. Tyler, what'd you see from our Fighting Tigers this past week?
Yeah, definitely some offensive struggles in game number three, and then late after you went up 4-0 in game number one. But you had some fireworks in the midweek and taking 2 out of 3 against the Xavier team that went to a regional last year. Not too much panic over here. I trust in Jay Johnson getting this offense figured out. This is still a young team on the offensive side, but the pitching staff continue to look good. And here we go. We start the gauntlet of SEC play going on the road in a hostile environment at one of the best venues in the SEC against Mississippi State, which is a team that's definitely been scorching hot as of late. So it should be a good series out there in Starkville.
Yeah, I believe they're on a 9-game win streak. But you mentioned the midweek game. Let's start off with the Wednesday night game at Southeastern. Jay Johnson mentions he always. This was the last one that was scheduled for the year, or last, I guess, the last game added to the schedule this year. Um, he mentioned he loves playing in Hammond. I think LSU likes traveling there. You get a pretty ruckus environment down there in Hammond, America. Uh, it was a tight battle, 1-0 for a while. Hammond, I mean, with Cade Anderson, let's talk about the freshman. 13 strikeouts in I think 6 innings pitched, only gave up 2 hits. Looked phenomenal. They couldn't touch him until that last inning where he let up a couple hits. And then Fidel and Lauer kind of struggled a little bit, or Lauer struggled a little bit. And Fidel also let up his first run of the year. Um, but going to the top of the ninth, I mean, the Tigers bats got it done, and a little comeback from behind to win the game with a big ninth inning. Would you see, Tyler? This Johnson said this should improve LSU's RPI because Hammond or Southeastern, did they make it to a regional last year? I believe they did.
I
Or they
believe they
were
did too.
close.
But yeah, like you mentioned, Southeastern, they were coming off of a really good stretch of games. You know, they played at East Carolina at the Invitational. They beat East Carolina, who was number 11 at the time, and then they beat Indiana. So they got two top 15 victories. So this is a Southeastern team. Really look at the Southland Conference. Nichols was the preseason favorite. UNO always has a good baseball program too. So I expect Southeastern Louisiana to contend for Southland Trophy. But like you mentioned, this was another pitching duel. Southeastern's pitching was really shut down LSU's offense. You know, outside of Mac Bingham double in the fifth inning, I believe. That was really the only run in the middle innings. And like you mentioned, Cade Anderson, we'll see how long he stays in the midweek. He'll probably stay in the midweek throughout the regular season, but whenever you get into postseason play, whenever you get, like 3 straight games in 3 days, then maybe you bring him into the bullpen or he becomes your eventual starter in elimination game. So really impressive stuff by Cade Anderson, like you mentioned, 13 strikeouts. And then you saw the offense really clutch hits back to back. Ethan Fry, he got you that double, and then after that, Paxton Kling also got a 2 RBI double as you survived as Southeastern Louisiana as Nate Ackenhausen came in. 3 batters, 3 strikeouts. Good morning, good evening, good night.
Yep.
So really impressive win in the midweek. I think that's definitely going to boost their RPI in playing Xavier as well. I think that Xavier is going to be a threat to win the Big East again.
Yeah, I mean, Xavier was the regional team last year. Were they a No, they weren't
I
a
think they
host
went
team.
on the road and beat Vanderbilt.
That's right. That's right. They upset their host, and then I mean they were fit. They picked to finish second in the Big East this year. LSU took 2 out of 3. Let's start with the Friday night guy, Luke Holman. I mean, continues to just be dominant. I've got a stat for you. He has a 0 ERA this season through 24 innings with 4 walks, 40 strikeouts, and a .103 opponent's batting average. I mean, that is about as dominant. I mean, I feel like I'm watching Paul Skeens 2.0. Maybe not the speed, but just the dominance and the ability to locate for strikes has been there, and he just dominates opposing lineups. So I feel pretty confident when Luke Holman's on the mound. LSU took that first game 4-0. You saw, let me see who else was. I think it was Holman and then Herring. I think we went all lefties, right?
Yep.
Uh, Holman, Christian Little, and then Griffin Herring. And it was good to see Little come in. He struggled a little bit, but he was able to throw strikes, and that's been the big thing for him. And then Griffin Herring came in and got the save with 3 strikeouts in the last inning. So Tyler, it was great Friday night, 4-0, lower offensive game, but that's kind of what we need to expect. We don't have the firepower from last year. They got 7 hits with 4 runs and only 1 error. What'd you see from the Friday night Tigers before they when they took on Xavier?
Yeah, they got off to a hot start. Put up 4 runs in the first 2 innings, but after that, Xavier's pitching staff really turned down. I think that Xavier's bullpen really kept them in these games outside of game number 2 when LSU really flexed their muscle on offense. But in the first half, you had Brady Neal come up to the plate. And he doubled, and that gave you a 1-0 lead. And then Travinsky with the sac fly that got it to 2-0. And then you saw Michael Braswell hit a real bullet out there that went off the wall, get you a triple, and then Monster Milam doubles off of the left center wall, and you're already up 4-0. And that was really all that you needed for a guy
Right.
like Luke Holman on the mound. Like you mentioned, is comparing numbers to Paul Skeens, but it's different stuff to what Paul Skeens. He's not going to give you 102, 100 up the gut, but he's going to effectively throw strikes. That breaking ball is also starting to come together too. So I'm not worried about him either. He was a Friday night guy of Alabama, so he's seen SEC play before. So he's seen Mississippi State, Auburn, what pretty familiar foes of what you're going to see in SEC play. So the offense did just enough on Friday. And then, like you mentioned, I think it's definitely great to see Christian Little give you some effective innings. It was still a close ball game, 4-0. You got into that little bit of jam whenever Xavier could have really busted it open and maybe even tied it. He got a 4-6-3 double play. He did that same thing against Texas State in last week's ball. Herring. I think we saw him last year what he could do whenever he steps on the mound, and he was effective once again with 3 strikeouts, going a little bit over an inning. This pitching staff continues to look good in this offense. It's been inconsistent, but I definitely wouldn't hit the panic button on them yet. Still early in the season.
No, definitely. I mean, I have confidence that Jay Johnson's going to get him right, which Saturday seems to be the game that they really feel themselves. Past couple weeks, that Saturday has been that higher scoring game. They took down Xavier to win the series 8-2 on Saturday with Gage Jump getting the start. 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk. I mean, you can't get more effective than that. Um, he only threw 19 balls out of 87 pitches. I mean, that's pretty dang good. This reminds me, this weekend lineup our weekend rotation, and honestly, just whole pitching staff. In years past, I've been racking my brain. I can't tell you a better pitching staff that we've had. Minus, of course, you
Maybe
had last year. You had
2017 when you had Alex Lang going on Friday, Jared
that's
Poche
exactly
Saturday, and then
who.
you had Eric Walker. It's kind of reminiscent of that.
Yes,
Each
that's
pitcher
exactly who
has
I was
their
thinking of.
qualities, but they give you different looks from the mound too.
Yeah, and it was Alex Lang, righty, Jared Poche, lefty, and then Eric Walker, righty again. So it's the similar Luke Holman, Gage Jump, and then Thatcher Hurd, righty, lefty, righty. What we kind of predicted at the beginning of the season, but almost flipped. We had Thatcher being the Friday guy, and he's fit into this Sunday role nicely. But just domination and depth from the pitching staff has been what's won LSU all these games. They finished pre-SEC. Well, I guess we have 2 midweek games coming up. But I think that final overall is 16-2, 14-2, something like that. Um, but let's talk Saturday. Gage Jump got the win, improves to 2-0. And then you saw the freshman, lefty Cam Johnson, came in for one batter, got it out. And Jay Johnson said, "That's enough. We're going to sit you back down." So confidence booster there, I guess. The Dutton came in and let up a couple of hits and some runs, struggled a little bit. I think he's still finding that confidence. But then Bronzini came in and got his strikeout, and Will Helmers. It was nice. I forgot about him. We have so many people on our pitching staff. Will Helmers came in, pitched 2 innings, got a strikeout, and got the save for us. So, Tyler, from a batting perspective, I mentioned the pitchers. The Tigers really erupted. I mean, 11 hits, 8 runs, no errors. So, what'd you see from the offensive firepower on Saturday night?
Yeah, I think with what they did effectively in the first 2 innings, they got after Xavier really early. They went 4-0 up in the first 2 innings. They did the same thing, but it was a different way. Ethan Fry, I think, continues to be effective. He did go out with a shoulder injury think that Jay Johnson said that he was going to be out for at least a week, so he's probably not going to see any playing time against Mississippi State. So hopefully he'll be back for the Florida series back at home. But he almost hit a grand slam, needed a couple of more feet to get over the wall, but nonetheless, it was a bases clearing double to build you up 3-0, and then Monster Milam just continues to be
He's
effective
got like
at the plate.
406
Yeah,
on the
he was
season.
batting over 400 going into Sunday's game. And then Travinsky, he had opposite field home run. And then after that, LSU's offense was just poured on. And like you mentioned from the pitching side, Gage Jump continues to be effective. It feels like each outing he's building more and more confidence whenever he steps on the mound. 10 strikeouts, 5 innings pitched. Like you mentioned, great to see Cam Johnson. You get him in, give him some confidence booster, and then the next time – maybe he'll get us a little bit more innings after that. But you bring in Sam Dutton up 8-0. He gives up 2 runs. So be it. You're still up 8-2. And then you bring in Nick Bronzini. Really been impressed with him. I feel like every time he's come in, he's been able to do his job. And then Will Helmer's flashed off his leather by making that play, calling off of the catcher there. But one player I do want to note is Alex Milazzo. He had 3 base hits this game. He's batting over 400. I think that he's a sneaky player that I'm not going to say that he's going to be the all-time starting catcher on this team. But Alex Milazzo starting off the season hot on the offensive side is definitely a story to watch.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about it a lot on the broadcast. LSU has 3 all-star catchers that if trades were a thing in college baseball, you could get a lot back for any of them. You saw Brady Neal Friday, Alex Milazzo Saturday, Hayden Travinsky Sunday, and I think that's what you're going to see to keep all 3 of them fresh. Neal and Travinsky obviously have the power to go yard at any moment. Milazzo not so much, but he gets base hits, and I think that's a big, crucial part to his game and why you see him continue. I mean, he's defensively, I think he's the best out of the 3 of them. And then I think I would give Neal that edge in terms of hitting. Just kind of all around as a catcher, I'd probably give it to Neal, and I think that's why you see him start Friday. And honestly, it may just be a comfort thing with Holman and Jump, who they're comfortable with pitching to. And then you see her throw to Travinsky on Sunday. But I think you're always going to see Travinsky or Neal in the lineup in some faucet, and then maybe Milazzo in there Saturday as the starting catcher on Saturday night. Uh, let's move to Sunday. Of course, the Tigers dropped the game 2-1. It was just a sloppy game, kind of all around. Not great at bats. Only 5 hits, 2 errors out in the field, 2 errors for Xavier. Also, they had a chance there in the ninth to come back and take that lead, but they had just. I was talking to you during the game. That ninth inning, they didn't try to work counts. It was first pitch swinging. Back-to-back batters went out on 3 straight pitches. You kind of got to almost call a timeout. I think Johnson did when Brady Neal walked up to the plate, but just to slow everything down because that closer's getting in a rhythm. That was their best pitcher on the weekend. But in the end, you won the series against a team that won a regional last year. That's pretty good. Thatcher Hurd, I think he didn't have his best stuff. He worked himself into some jams, but he worked himself out of some jams without letting up any runs or any earned runs. So it was good to see him battle through adversity. Ackenhausen came in for and looked good for a while. Then he let up that run later in the game, and then Gavin Guidry, as he does, comes in and shuts the door. I was kind of expecting to see Lauer pitch, considering he transferred from Xavier, but I think if Guidry didn't get that last guy out, it was going to be Lauer to face the lefty. But Tyler, what you think of Sunday's game? Kind of a quieter. It was a little hard to watch because it was just 3 up, 3 down half the time.
Yeah, I think that we're so used to seeing on Sundays, so it's like 11-10, and to see a 2-1 game is definitely catching to you. But yeah, Nate Ackenhausen receiving that loss, man, that's a tough loss to get because that was the only earned run in the whole entire game. Thatcher Hurd didn't give up a run either. His breaking ball was definitely on the money. Xavier just didn't really have any opportunity. Like you mentioned, I feel like every time that, Xavier got either, runners on first and second, they had like so many threatening opportunities to really blow this game open early. But Thatcher Hurd was able to either get a key strikeout or get a key fly out. So 9 strikeouts, 5 innings. That's definitely one you see. He had a 6 ERA going into this one. He was able to get it down a little bit. So I think that Thatcher Hurd, every time that he's also getting on the mound, you're starting to build some confidence on that. And then the offense, not too much to really talk about. This is I think that the players are just going to toss this one in the trash because this is definitely
Long weekend.
not the offensive performance that you definitely want. And this, you can't be doing this against SEC pitching. I will tell you that. I really outside of the Mac Bingham, he got on. It was a fielding error. So that's really the only way that you
Yeah.
scored on this one. It wasn't really a base hit or anything. So definitely a sloppy game, especially on the offensive side. But the pitching staff, I'll tell you what. I mean, they were still in this game, no matter like LSU's offense couldn't really put any base hits. I don't even think you saw any like extra base hits or anything. It was pretty much all singles in Sunday's game. So you got to give credit to Xavier's pitching staff. They really locked in on Sunday. Their starter was able to shut down LSU's top bats. So you got to give credit to that pitching staff. But it's just only one loss. You have two
Yep.
losses. You have two more, midweek before in the midweek against North Dakota State. And then this is really where you got to get it going. I think it would be big for this LSU team to get a series victory against Mississippi State because we talked about in the preseason. After Mississippi State, it's an absolute gauntlet of months teams.
Yeah, you go Florida, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and then at Missouri to end that month. But let's look ahead to the midweek games. It's strange because we play Tuesday, Wednesday against North Dakota State, Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And then Wednesday is a 1 o'clock game. I would imagine maybe after this game, they're wrapping up and they're getting on the bus to Starkville for a late night drive. Um, Prediction wise, I think you see Javen Coleman on Tuesday. We mentioned this before the show. And then Cade Anderson again on Wednesday. I think Cade's your midweek starter, and Coleman is that guy that can start. I was actually kind of surprised we didn't see him in relief, but Jay Johnson's probably saving him to start Tuesday. So that I would imagine that's why we didn't see him in relief today. But what I want to see is just the offense kind of get back on track. Good quality at bats, work some counts, get some base hits, and build on that momentum going into Starkville, where Mississippi State's a hot team. You're going to a very hostile environment. Like I said, they won the past 9. They just got a series sweep. Who did they play this weekend? Evansville. Okay, don't know much about Evansville, but State's 12-4 on the season, 9-game win streak. They got a guy who can hit the. I do not remember his name.
Hunter Hines.
Yes, he can hit the ball anywhere. I'm talking probably over their apartments in left field. I mean, the man's got pop. I think it's going to be a really good matchup. State's not ranked, but we know what they can do, right? They've had a rough couple of years. They fired their head coach like 2 weeks ago. Did you see that?
I don't think so.
I
Lamonis is
thought
still their head coach.
somebody fired when SEC team fired their head coach a couple weeks ago. I thought it was Mississippi State.
Nope.
But maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm just hearing things. I don't know. But what do you expect to see from the Tigers this weekend? What are your predictions for this Mississippi State series?
Yeah, first I'll start off with North Dakota State. Like you mentioned, I definitely want to see this offense get back on track. I think that they're going to be hitting the cages on Monday, maybe even have a day off. We'll see what Jay Johnson's plan is for this team. But I agree with you. I think that you're going to see Javen Coleman on Tuesday, Cade Anderson on Wednesday. We could see it flip-flop, but I think that those are going to be the two guys. We're probably going to see Justin Lohr. He didn't pitch at all this weekend. You're probably going to get some guys. I don't think you're probably going to see Nate Ackenhausen. Maybe he gets you 1 inning, and you'll probably see Uyo. So get some bullpen guys, some work. Maybe Javen Coleman goes 4 or 5 innings. Cade Anderson goes 5, 6. Give you effective innings and use your key bullpen pieces as well. So you'll be able to tinker your lineup for the last 2 times. I think that you're not really going to see that really mainstay lineup of the whole entire season. I think it's just going to change, like you mentioned, the catcher position. You're probably going to see like 3 catchers every week, depending on what the pitcher selects. And then, maybe you go with another DH. So against North Dakota State, we'll see if you go 2-0. Great. If you split, that's great as well. But against Mississippi State, like you mentioned, this is a team that started off their season slow. They lost against Air Force in the opening series. They did take the victory, and then the midweek they got swept by Austin Peay, which is a team that they went in Auburn. They lost that series to Auburn, but that's a team that you're not going to want to see in your regional. I will tell you that.
No.
But this offense from Mississippi State is starting to figure out Dakota Jordan. He had a couple of home runs. Hunter Hines, he had a home run against Evansville too. So this is a team that's starting to build momentum, play really good baseball at the right time. In the midweek, they played South Alabama in New Orleans in MGM Park down there in Biloxi. So that will be their last two tests before SEC play. We all know what happened last year. The pitching staff imploded in the last game, which we don't want to talk about on the show. But of course,
don't want to put that bad voodoo into the world.
I'm going to be picking LSU to win this 2 out of 3. I don't think that it's going to be a sweep or anything. If it is, great to go 3-0 on the road. But the sweep on the road in SEC play is always tough to do. But I think that this pitching staff, the way that it's been pitching lately, so I think that this is going to be all 3 close games. I don't think that you're going to see a blowout in this one. Like I mentioned, Mississippi State's starting to figure things out on the pitching side, and then their offense is starting to play really well. But I think that LSU gets a little bit of revenge of what Mississippi State did to them last year. So give me 2 out of 3 in Starkville for the Tigers.
I like the 2 out of 3 as well. It's very hard to sweep in the SEC in general, let alone on the road. And I'd be happy with a series win. I think anybody would. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a Friday night lineup prediction, and maybe this will carry over into the full weekend minus the catching position because, as we've seen, that fluctuates. I'm going Kling at a leadoff, Milam to bat second, which we saw Travinsky bat second today, which was interesting. And then go Tommy Tanks third, Brady Neal at 4. And I think you back Travinsky up with him at 5, and then Pearson at 6. Bear Jones at 7, Braswell 8, and Bingham at 9. I like Bingham in that 9 hole. The speed he creates, and then have Kling right behind him. If you get that lineup flip, it's just a nice mixture there. He's batting leadoff at the end, put it that way. So I think you're going to see Pearson take over that right field position. Jake Brown's a great player. We'll see how he recovers. It looked like a dislocation similar to a Tommy White injury last year. Hopefully to not that extent. I've had that injury before, and it ended my season with a torn labrum. But I think it was just a dislocation, awkward dive back to first base because he was really getting hot, and you hate to see that for Fry. He's like 6'6". I think he's bigger than Bear Jones. He's huge. Yeah. But that's kind of my prediction. Infield not changing. Milam is. You put him at the top.
I think he's locked in at second. I mean, we were talking about Josh Pearson. They were talking about like Josh Pearson. He's moving to second. Then Monster Milan comes out of nowhere. Yeah, I think that he's going to give you professional at bat every time. It's hard to keep him out of the lineup, and I think that his defense as well. You're starting to see him, LSU shift pretty much everywhere this weekend. So. I think you're going to see Milan out there. We'll probably see Pearson and Brown really flip-flop at that right field position in the outfield.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind seeing Milan lead off. I said Kling because he did it the majority of the weekend, but I think that 1-2 can flip and flop because Milan his at-bats have been so good lately. He can really set the tone for a game, possibly work off a leadoff walk or just a base hit because, like you said, he's batting over 400 heading into today's game. So I would love to see a sweep. I think that any LSU fan would, but I think it's a 2-1 series win for the Tigers, and I agree with you. Close games. Maybe Saturday, just because based off what we've been seeing is a boom box, hit it all over the yard type of game. But a 2-1, and I think we definitely take the victory Friday night with Luke Holman on the mound. So, Tiger fans, we appreciate you watching. Hit that subscribe button to see us every week. Drop your prediction for scores, lineups, what you think the Tigers do this weekend in the comments. We'll respond to you. I'll leave you with a Go Tigers.